Tēnā koe. To the Minister of Housing, what announcement has he recently made that supports the government's aim of improving the provision of affordable housing in New Zealand?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, yesterday I announced the launch of the Gateway Housing Assistance Initiative. This program will make it easier for first home buyers and those on lower incomes to build or purchase their own homes by allowing purchasers to defer payment on the land for up to 10 years. So what this does is allows people on lower incomes to concentrate on building their homes before they assume the additional burden of paying for the land. It's sort of a neat two-step process: pay for the building, then pay for the land 10 years later. It's just another addition to the toolkit for first home buyers. But I'd have to say, Mr Speaker, the most important thing the government can do for first home buyers is to manage the economy well, keeping down interest rates well below the time in Labour's tenure when they were 10 and 11%, so that people can afford to pay their mortgages.
Hekia Parata.
Supplementary to the Minister, what other programs support the provision of affordable housing?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, we've also raised the cap on welcome home loans from $280,000 to $350,000. We've seen 3,000 New Zealanders become homeowners since we became government under that fund. The Housing Innovation Fund last year saw 169 new houses built, many of them for first home buyers, with 20 million of the taxpayers' money met by 40 million of the community's money, which is great, seeing $2 for every $1 we put up. But I'd have to say, Mr Speaker, managing the economy well, keeping interest rates down below the 10 and 11% that they were under Labor just means people can afford to pay their fortnightly mortgage, and that's the most important thing we can do. Manage the economy well and cut red tape for building and resource consenting.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, what priority is he according the issues of affordable housing in rural communities, and how can iwi Māori be involved in this issue?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, we're very conscious when we raised the amount of money in the Housing Innovation Fund up to $20 million, it was $12 million under the previous government, that we would set aside $4 or $5 or $6 million each year for Māori housing, particularly in rural areas. So Mangatawa, Papamoa Blocks Incorporation, Te Rawa, Ngāti Awa, Ngāti Hini Health Trust last year received $5.5 million. They actually built with that money 44 kamatua and affordable houses across the regions, which is wonderful. Māori groups, iwi groups, are applying again this year. We hope to see another 40 or 50 houses built, particularly on Māori rural land. And so work in partnership with Housing New Zealand and the Department of Building Housing is my message for iwi leaders. We want to engage with them.
Moana Mackey.
Supplementary to the Minister, why, when back in 2008 the previous Labour government had already identified 1,500 sites on Crown land for affordable homes in Auckland alone, has it taken him 2 years to come up with 30 across the whole country?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Well, members who have been here longer than 3 years will recall that Labour identified a fair bit of land. It included the Auckland Zoo. And many parks, public parks across Auckland. We decided this, we consulted, we went out there and discussed it amongst ourselves, and we decided we wouldn't close down the Auckland Zoo. And so those bits of land were set aside. We're just delighted, rather than identifying land, to actually hand over the keys to some property.
Well done.
Moana Mackey.
Supplementary to the Minister, does he appreciate that his government's decision to raise GST has already increased the cost of building a new home, that his decision to charge interest on the Crown land will add, by his own calculations, at least $36,000 to the cost of a new home, that cost of living increases across the board have already made it harder for families to get into and sustain housing, and does he realise that housing affordability will never be addressed as long as his government continues to give with one hand and take with the other?
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, I don't consider many of those statements by the opposition member to be factual. What everyone in this House knows is factual is that when that government was managing the economy, interest rates for mortgage payers were up around 10 and 11%. whereas this government is looking to manage the economy to keep interest rates down at a decent level. And that's the most important thing we can do for first home buyers, is to manage the economy so that interest rates for mortgage payers are kept at a reasonable level, not at 10 or 11% like under the previous government.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard, point of order.
Mr Speaker, I'd like you to reflect, not necessarily directly now, but as you review questions today, that answer and the beginning which attacked the credibility of a member for the use of some facts, which we know it came from, well, I'm informed came from that minister's website. But the point is, sir, if someone is doubting a member's word on a matter of fact, it is quite a serious matter and used not to be allowed in the House.
Order. I appreciate the member's point of order. I invite him also to check the Hansard of his colleague's question. I think you'll find the question was actually the kind of question that lends itself to a very wide range of answers. It was a total opinion question. It asked the minister's opinion about something and contained some facts. And with supplementary questions, I think ministers are entitled to question the validity of facts inserted into, or assertions inserted into supplementary questions, because after all, they're not meant to contain assertions beyond what is absolutely minimal to state the question. So I listened very carefully to that question. I thought to myself as I heard it, here's a go. The minister really has licence to go anywhere with that kind of question. I invite both members, to have a look at the question asked and see why the minister was given such licence with that kind of question to actually give the kind of answer he did. Question number 7.